teaches me listen, and boy does she sing. Her voice swings like a hummingbird, flies like a shooting.
Welcome to the Girl Awakening podcast. I'm Jo Hendy from the Sacred Sister Project.
I'm Amanda Parker from Mayella Organics.
Together each week we will share a vulnerable, open and honest podcast about the awakening process in all of its sacredness. Hello Amanda.
Hey Jo,
We're back, episode 9.
excitement.
Woohoo!
We have beautiful Shekinah Leigh with us. Hey Shekinah,
Hi,
thanks for coming in.
such a pleasure.
We're going to tell you a little bit about Shekinah
Yeah,
because it's very,
another amazing woman.
and powerful the modalities that she operates in with her gifts that she shares with us all. But to give you an insight, Shekinah Leigh runs her own business on the Gold Coast, where we're all blessed to live. It's a place in the world.
So blessed.
Facilitating weddings and sacred ceremonies, specialty treatments for women, workshops, retreats, online courses and sailing adventures. With over 15 years experience as an intuitive healer, Shekinah combines many modalities to provide a range of services that honour and activate the divine within us all. Oh, I feel that. Beautiful. She's a certified marriage celebrant, massage therapist, shamanic practitioner, yoga teacher, childbirth mentor and young girls coming of age mentor, with many years of experience facilitating circles, rites of passage, sacred ceremony and birth work. Shekinah holds a strong and safe space for transformation and healing to take place at a deep and cellular level. By integrating her chosen paths of Hawaiian shamanism, Native American medicine teaching, ancient yogic traditions and earth-based spirituality, she is able to provide a comprehensive and a holistic approach to healing our relationships with ourselves, life and others.
How
Wow.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's so, it's funny how the universe works because the previous lady that we had in
Yeah.
is right into the whole childbirth
Oh, yeah.
around trauma, like for the
Yes.
mother and the baby and the
Yeah,
child, and pulling that apart and understanding it more for the child as an adult now.
Amazing.
And the mother. Yeah, so it's funny that you're kind of in that
it's-
same
yeah,
realm.
perfect.
It's so beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's such a big thing. The
Yeah.
birth trauma, and it's. We're going to get me started, aren't
Yeah,
we?
yeah. We're warming you up.
And it's funny because, I was looking at your, this is the Awakening podcast. And I was like, when I think of awakening, I think of them as rites of passage.
Yeah.
And that first big aware rite of passage that I went on was birth. Was birthing my daughter.
Beautiful.
And the trauma that went along with it, and the healing that needed to happen as well.
Yeah.
And whenever something happens to me in my life, I like to research it,
Yeah.
and then I usually teach it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what do they say? We teach what we most need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've done that the whole way through. I did that with birth trauma. So I went in, did lots of amazing workshops, just so I could heal myself, and then realised what an unmet area it
Yeah.
is. So many people, so many women, like 1 in 3 postnatal depression and birth trauma. And it's just something that's swept under the carpet. But a lot of women's stuff is.
So wild. I think it's
Yeah.
this is the magic of what's happening on the planet right now, the synchronicities and all of that. I mean, I love all that side of things. This is really deep,
Yeah.
this area.
It is.
And what came out was that this particular lady birthed 2 of her children in Bali.
Oh, wow.
And, well, actually, she birthed them here in hospital, then took them back to Bali.
Oh, okay.
But had the first 12 months It's actually 3 months.
It was the village that raises the child,
Yeah,
basically.
so she had
all
that-
the nurturing for the mother and
the fourth
child.
trimester. Yeah.
It was so
yeah.
amazing what she was sharing
Yes,
with
the
us.
fourth trimester.
Yeah.
That's gold, isn't it? I love
It's
the way
gold.
you just said that.
Yeah.
What nobody recognises.
No.
We don't have that here.
No, we
And-
don't honour it. And when women do think, hang on, that makes sense to me, and they try to put boundaries in place around it,
Yeah.
people arc up, like family members, grandparents. They're like, no, we want access, we want this, we want that. And, you
Get
know,
busy with us.
yeah, and you are learning how to be a mother, especially if it's your first one. The baby's learning how to be a human. You know, partner's learning how to support. You're learning how to be a family.
Yeah.
And that's what the fourth trimester really is about. Having
So
that
beautiful.
bonding time, so that what a transformation it is. What a huge change it is. We all know, anyone who's had a child, you know what a huge change it is.
It's probably half the reason half the planet's fucked up, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Like, so many
Absolutely.
people have so much trauma
So
going on
much
and they
trauma.
don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And then when they do finally go and they seek out and they want to find what it is, it
Yeah.
goes back to birth
Yeah. Yeah.
or around that time.
And for the mothers as well, like I did a whole series a couple of years ago, it was birth stories, where I just got lots of mums telling all different birth stories, because my bestie and I, she's a midwife, we created this online, the integrated birthing journey program,
Wow.
which takes women all the way through that birthing journey, but also the fourth trimester.
Yeah.
And shows not just the stuff that we learn about in antenatal classes, but the spiritual aspects, the
Yeah.
emotional aspects, all of that.
Yeah.
And really offer it up as a rite of passage, that when you can do those mindfully, you get so much more from them, and you get less trauma as well.
And supported. That's support,
Wow.
isn't it? So did you have that when your first child was born?
No,
When your child was born?
but that was, I mean, we're talking 16 years ago. A lot has changed.
Yeah.
So much has changed around birthing in the last 16 years. And it's not that I wasn't supported, it's that I didn't realise I needed to be supported.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea it could go wrong.
Yeah.
I was that innocent,
Yeah.
you know, that naive. Like, I read some books, but I avoided the things I didn't want, or that I didn't want to think about.
Yeah.
And I just went into the hospital system, and it was just a cascade of interventions that
But
led
it's
to
part of our
such-
culture, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
We
absolutely.
don't have any of this nurture, you know, the mother nurture the baby. We
No.
don't have that in a way that other cultures do.
Nurturing the mother is definitely something that it's not about. Like, even baby showers, you know, there's more things coming in, like blessing ways and mother blessings, where we are like, this is the person who's carrying the child.
Yeah.
You know, this is the person that we want to nurture. Let's nurture the nurturer. But it is still not really catching on.
Well, one day of that is not really. I mean, it's an
No,
amazing.
one day.
It's special,
God.
but it's like not
Yeah.
gonna, you know.
It's kind of like Mother's Day. One
Yeah.
day is not
Yes.
enough. I usually
Come
work
on.
harder on
Yeah.
Mother's Day than any other day.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely. Oh my God, that's so true. That's so beautiful, and we will get around to that.
Yeah.
That's more of what you do, the aspect of what you do. One of your modalities.
Yeah.
It
down
is
the
just one
track.
of my modalities. And that's the interesting thing, though. My modalities change as I do. I gave birth 16 years ago, and then as my daughter was coming of age, that's when I started doing the coming of age
Yes,
girls programs,
beautiful,
similar
yes.
to what you were doing.
Yes.
Because that's what was in my life, and that's what I wanted to address.
Beautiful.
And now she's turning 16. The biggest thing that I'm now moving into is, you know, I'm 45 and I've gone into early menopause
Yep.
through having breast cancer and all other things.
Wow.
So that's my next big rite of passage. That's where I'm diving into. That's where I'm
Yeah.
gathering information. And that's, you know, that's the next piece that I'm, you know, getting ready to share with other people,
I
especially
love
women,
that.
is to, embrace that. Not the final rite of passage, that's death, really.
Don't write yourself on the end,
Right.
They won't be rushing you for that.
But it is a really big one.
Yeah.
Because it's one, you know, when we first start our period, we might, you know, we're not super aware that it's a rite of passage
Yeah.
unless we've got parents and community that are doing that. Birth, we've just been talking about, it's a massive rite of passage, but it's still kind of like, just get on with it. You're not allowed
Yes.
to treat it as such.
Yes.
So menopause actually feels like that one where, hang on, children should kind of be grown, and I'm an adult, and
Yeah.
I've got so much wisdom now, and you can actually mindfully move through it as a completion,
Yeah.
but also into like the next juicy stage, and
Yes.
I guess re-owning the crone years.
Yeah.
Yes. And the
As
freedom of being.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
beautiful.
not being on the emotional roller coaster of hormones, like all those sorts of things, and that it's not the end for women. If anything, it's
So
the
true.
beginning of something incredibly amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're hearing you.
Yeah.
We're hearing you.
And it's still taboo, isn't
Yes,
it?
no,
Menopause, it's like,
absolutely.
oh,
It's like
It's sort of
straight
curse.
away. It's like a negative thing. But we
Yeah.
had this conversation too around because I'm stepping more into the talking about periods, but the sacredness
Yes.
of that with the girls that I'm working
absolutely.
with, and how important it is. But it's it's a taboo thing. It's like it's a negative thing in their life, and even their mums are saying it's kind of going down the lineage, like that your period is not a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at it as something that's sacred and it's something that's beautiful and
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and that is interesting, because my daughter came to many of the girls' programs that I was running because it was in the house and she
Lucky
was there, and I was
Yes.
like, come on.
Yes.
By then she was like, do I have to do this again? But she grew up thinking that it wasn't that curse, that it was something. She knew all about it. The spiritual, the emotional, the mental, and the physical components of it, and how it all moved together. And she was frustrated because hers didn't come until a little bit later. So she was just like, what?
Yeah.
How come I'm waiting? What's wrong with me? And it's
Yeah.
just like, this is perfect. This
Yes.
is so amazing. And the most interesting thing is, I just ended mine and she started hers.
Yes.
So we
Beautiful
never
timing.
cycled together. We just kind
How
of played a tag
amazing.
team. Yeah.
Oh, don't you love that? The little synchronicities that are playing out, Oh, that's really beautiful. All right, so we're going to jump back into the
yeah.
awakening. Yeah. So this started when you had
16
your
years
daughter
ago.
16 years ago. Was that what occurred to what woke you, what shook you, what did you realize, what was it that kind of
Why are you connecting with it as your as an
or
awakening?
the awarenesses that came in or
Yeah, it's interesting, because I don't want to say prided myself, but I've always been a self-aware kind of person who knows when I'm sensitive, so I know when things feel off.
Yes.
And so I've had lots of those moments. I remember as a teenager, all of a sudden realising, I had depression and going to the doctor and was like, just give me something. And she was like, I don't want to give you something.
Yeah.
Like, what an amazing...
what a
Right.
great doctor.
How long ago was that? It was
Jesus,
like decades ago. She's like, I don't want to give you something. Actually, what I want to give you is this book. And she gave me this book by Naomi Wolf, Fire with Fire.
Wow.
Right.
Great book.
What an amazing doctor.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I read that book and went, oh, okay. This
It's
is
not
my...
me.
Kind of.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not me. And
Well, it
I'm a
is.
feminist and
Yeah.
I believe in women's rights.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm feeling these ways. So that was probably like my first awareness of
Yeah.
awakening of like, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I joined the Women's Electoral Lobby and I volunteered for the Women's Legal Service and I really dove into
fantastic.
doing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was
You
still...
got active.
I got really active, yeah, and that's what I needed to do. Probably as a Leo woman, like I needed to like dive in, sink my teeth
Yes.
into it, like experience it, and
Yeah.
feel like that things were changing. And then I was working in corporate, felt like that soul sucking kind of a very male dominated industry that I was in, where the old men try to chat you up and just really and they go to the strip clubs at lunchtime and talk about happy ending massages, like there was just that's just
No
how it
filters.
was.
Yeah.
No filters, and thinking it's perfectly fine to be doing so. And as a young woman, because I started working when I was 16, like it was just so icky. Yeah. And then I realized this isn't working for me. And started doing women's circles, women's retreats, finding those places and activating the feminine within myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I guess the first business I had was called Honouring the Feminine.
Ah,
It was
beautiful.
like within everyone, but especially within women, because we're not taught to value those energies in men or women. The being instead of the doing, the resting instead of achieving, the being intuitive and tapping into all that is instead of what can only be seen and heard and felt and touched. So that was really beautiful. And then when I fell pregnant at the same time, I left my job. Well, I'd left the job and went to study how to be a kahuna massage therapist.
Oh, wow.
Because I experienced a 15-minute snippet of it at a women's retreat one day and went, oh my gosh, I want to make other people feel like that.
Oh,
Yes.
how
So,
beautiful.
yeah, quit my job, went and studied it, just intensive days that they used to have. You go away for weeks and do things. And while I was on my level 3, and level 2, I found out I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And it was not on purpose.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Perfectly imperfect.
Yeah, so, and you know, how did you change one thing and everything changes?
Yeah.
So that was just the doorway into next. You know, the career had already changed. I'd been moving into a more feminine work environment, and then I was pregnant, and there's nothing quite like pregnancy to awaken all of the feminine feels, right?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
and to
Jesus.
teach you that you're not really in charge,
Yes.
and you've got to go with it.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
trusting.
Creative Spark is more than just a new business. It's an embryo as well.
Exactly.
It's
Yep. And then the birth trauma, just that cascade of interventions, and then dove into really deep spiritual rite of passage work. So
Yeah.
that's where I started to learn about rites of passage work and how important it is for women to realize how many times we go through them and how important they are, and being that gooey mess in the cocoon is actually like where all the magic is.
Yeah.
So
Preparing ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So rites of passage, just so the listeners understand as well, is that, are there only certain times in the life? Like, is it like, you know, when a girl menstruates for the first time, or when a woman gives birth for the first time, and then the menopausal stage? Are they rites of passage, or is there any time is a rites of passage?
I think so many things can be a rite of passage, and when you choose mindfully that something is a time of transformation for you, then that's a rite of passage.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, like we do have those normal big milestones that everyone would go, oh yeah, of course that's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Moving from here to this phase of life, like that sort of
Is
makes
it like
sense.
a dark night of the soul, or is it
Absolutely.
It is. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a nice.
Except for
little-
Dark Night of the Soul just kind of focuses on that gooey mess in the cocoon instead of understanding that, you know, a rite of passage has at least those 3 components of preparation. So the caterpillar, the gooey mess in the cocoon, and then the integration part, which is being the butterfly and owning a new way of being. In a lot of the work I do, because I love doing medicine wheel work, like that really is one of the main tools that I use in a lot of stuff that I do.
I can't wait to hear about that.
There is a thing that I use, it's called medicine wheel astrology. So it takes your birth date and it has a look at where you are on that wheel of life. And it takes us 3 years to go through to do a full circle of that wheel. And every 3 years is a rite of passage. So there's even, you know, and that's it. Like, there's just layer upon layer upon layer of things. And I think and rites of passage can last like a day, or they could last a year, or like there's just, and we can have multiple going on.
I was going to say, and every woman's would be completely different from the next. It's like there's no one way.
And it's just understanding your own. And sometimes they're super easy, just like, oh, you know, like that shift and that change happened, and other times you're like, oh, like that's when it feels like the dark night of the soul. It's never gonna end. Where's the light at the air? Where is the light?
Or overlapping, like you were saying, with your daughter's period starting and yours finishing.
That's
like
right.
Those rites of passage, tag teaming.
I know. There's a big part of me that's very happy that we weren't cycling.
Yes, I'm hearing you. I have a daughter who's actually there's three of us girls, and we end up lining up together.
Right?
And we just like, you know, a lot of, have you got yours? Yeah, I've got mine. You know, like kind of dark night of the soul.
Let's
just all have some space.
Absolutely. We need a bigger house. Hilarious. Yes. Classic.
Oh.
So this is all happening, and so now you've got your daughter. So you're raising her on your own.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a quite a big thing in its own.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it's actually really hard to embrace the feminine and honor the feminine when you are having to do the masculine every day.
Yeah.
When you're having to be mother and father and protector and provider, as well as nurturer and carer. And yeah, it was really, really challenging. Obviously so challenging and stressful that I ended up with breast cancer.
Yes.
Not that I'm blaming my child for that.
No,
but
yes.
it was just, it's very stressful without the village. You know, there's a reason that's a saying.
Yes.
Because breast cancer, like my connection with breast cancer is like the different levels again, as with everything, but you know, it's the woman, the nurturing that goes out, but also the nurturing that does or doesn't go in of the person who owns the breast.
Yes. And that's it. And depending on whether it's the left breast or the right breast or all of those sorts of things. And, you know, that was a massive rite of passage for me. And at the start, I was so scared going into that journey, like really scared, because I was a single mum and my daughter was about to turn 10. And I was like, what if something happens to me now? That was my biggest fear all along, is like, what if something happens to me? Who raises my daughter? And I had to face it. You know, it was that's what rites of passage are about too, like facing the fears head on, turning around and looking the tiger in the eyes and going, I see you now. What's the plan? You know, making a will, asking family members, would you take her, discussing it with her.
Hardcore reality.
Oh God,
right.
So...
This is what's happening to me, and because I didn't take a mainstream approach to the healing of it as well, there were some really big conversations that we needed to have around me doing it my way, and I didn't know if it was going to work or not, but I had to trust what felt right for me and talk to like a not quite yet 10-year-old about those things and have those feelings of, is this too much for her to know? But at the same time, it's kind of the two of us. Like, I'm not going to keep her in the dark. She's an intelligent being. She's going to be picking up on things on all other levels anyway. She can see all the treatments that I've had to go through, and now when I finally decided to get surgery, that's not invisible.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're aching and tender, and you know, you kind of need people who are close to you in that way to be tender with you and know to care for you and things, and not just think that mummy's been a wuss today, I don't know why. You know,
she needed to step up, and that was the conversations that needed to be had. Look, there's some things I can't keep doing for you. You're almost 10. It's time. Like, I need you to step up. And I was going to say, unfortunately or fortunately, cancer's a big motivator. In many things, and you
had no other choice,
right? And you pull the C card out, and people are like, "Oh, okay, take that seriously."
Absolutely. And for her, because again, with different conversations we've had, you know, there's lots of secrets in families as well, and like to not know about health conditions that are in families, like particularly breast cancer. I mean, there's a lot of genetic triggers and things like that. So, you know, to share that with your daughter and have her awareness around it from her own health point of view is amazingly important, as well as being there for you.
And there's, again, just so many layers with that. Like, I haven't always been, you know, I felt frustrated at times at not being the mum who's great at scrapbooking, or, you know, like making things or baking, or, you know, all of those mum things that you think, oh yeah, mum's supposed to be good at that. But emotional intelligence and authenticity and having the real conversations, like, that's the stuff I have been able to bring to the table. And those opportunities, they're teaching moments, then I'm not going to let them slip through the crack.
No. And you know how horrible it was to get cancer. It allowed you to step right into that area with your daughter, which, you know, some people find it a little tricky. Like, some people, like I know, for instance, that some mums can't even talk about periods with their daughters. And I'm like that's weird. That's weird to me.
It's weird to me,
I was telling my daughter when she was, you know, way before she was probably should have been hearing it. We'd have conversations about it, and she'd ask questions, and I'd tell her, you know, it's like I had a different view around parenting than you know, a lot of my friends, and even
Yeah.
I lost friends because they didn't like the way that I parented my child.
Oh.
And it's like, well, hey, I'm just doing it the way that I want to do it.
The way that you
Yeah.
think is best.
Yeah.
I know. I had the same thing when my daughter asked about where babies came from, you know,
Yep.
whatever, and quite young. I remember thinking, this is young. All right, so you start off with the little snippet that
Well, they say when
feels
they
quite
ask, they're ready.
right,
Yeah.
so quite superficial. Okay, this, you know, because I'm like, which bit does she want to know?
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, we had gone down this rabbit hole because I kept going, is that enough information? She'd go, no, but what about butt? And it's like, right. And so
Yeah.
by the end, I had the birthing books out. I was like, because she just kept,
Joy.
she
She
was
was
still
ready.
curious. She
Yeah.
wanted to know more. Otherwise, I would have stopped way back there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of,
Yeah.
it's child-led learning, isn't
Yes,
it? Yeah.
absolutely. And I think the world's moving so fast these
So
days
fast.
that we have to keep up, or else you're going to be left behind. And part
Yeah.
of that is, you know, like I know even saying to the girls, you know, you have people around you that you can't see that are here to help you. And they're like, huh? And I'm like, I know it sounds woo-woo, but, you know, when you're in trouble or you're feeling, even when you're at night, you're in bed and it's dark, ask for help. See what
Yeah.
happens, you know. It's like, I can even feel my fear around talking about that in
Yeah,
certain
absolutely,
areas
yeah.
because you can feel the governance there, you know, where don't go there. It's like, I've been saying to Amanda, I've been going there.
Those spiritual realms are just a big taboo. Like, how
Yes.
many taboos do we need to have in society? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, let's just get over it.
Yeah.
And when that spiritual aspect is left out of our lives, that's when we struggle. That's when we self-medicate with drugs and alcohol and gambling and sex and all of those things because
Absolutely.
we know something's missing. We're trying to fill this gap. If we're not affiliated with a religion as such, then it's super difficult to be able to explain that we know there's something more, but it's not tangible. How do I explain it? But it's missing and I want it.
Yeah.
How do I get more of it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we are lucky these days that there is definitely a whatever people want to call it,
Yeah.
whether it's a new age movement or this
Yeah.
or that. Yeah, there's all the woke people, which can be a bit frustrating because it's not just about having politically correct terms. It's actually about living an authentic,
Yes.
spiritually aligned, deeply connected, you know, life.
Yeah.
And that requires exploration, and sometimes the lines get messy.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
sometimes people get offended.
Yeah.
And sometimes in our exploration it doesn't look as beautiful as we hope it would, but that's part of rite of passage too.
Absolutely.
The mess.
Yeah.
And then being able to own it and be able
Yeah.
to go, oh yeah, the way I did that, the way I said that, the way that ended up appearing, it wasn't ideal. And you get to apologise
Yeah.
and own it.
Yeah.
And be self-responsible.
Yeah.
Self-responsible and
Yes.
accountable and
Yeah.
all of those beautiful words
Yes.
that aren't really...
Yeah.
Well, also it opens up another opportunity for another level of engagement and understanding of
and vulnerability.
vulnerability and actually seeing if people experience you as you felt they might have experienced you, and they might come back and say,
Perception.
well, perception.
Yes.
Actually, this was
Oof.
how that felt to me, and you go, oh, okay, well, you know, some of those things concerned about were actually of our own
stuff. We were
Yeah,
projecting.
so-
yeah.
It's a kind of, it's everything is valuable in that way,
It's
isn't
so
it? And
valuable. Exactly.
So precious.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And it really is hard to go out into the exploring these days, because I see in so many forums there's just those gatekeepers
Yeah.
who just want to shut you down before you get to even experience something. No, you can't say it like that. No, you can't use that word. No, you know, there's just so many no's.
Yes.
And where are the yeses?
Yeah.
Where are the come and experience it, and then find your own way of sharing it. Like, I read a book just recently called Braiding Sweetgrass. Oh, and
What a beautiful.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, doesn't it?
it's just gorgeous. And because I really do have a strong connection to a lot of Native American teachings, I just do. And yes, I am not.
Yeah, hello, sitting here in
right.
front of us, it's like
Yeah.
the biggest vibe we're getting off.
So beautiful. Yes.
But I'm blonde
Drums.
and I'm white, and I was born in Australia.
Yeah.
And you know, but I've dived deep into the practices and the teachings, and not all of it resonated for me.
Yeah.
And I've dived deep into Buddhist teachings and into Hawaiian shamanism. And in the end, I guess that's why I love one of the traditions that I did learn with. They talk about braiding, so they were called the twisted hairs. So in it, and that's why I love the braiding sweetgrass, because it's like a hair on its own is so easily breaks.
Yeah.
But when you can take those pieces that really resonate for you, that feel like they activate you, that are a yes, there's a truth in them, and then you can weave them together into something that feels like yours, that is an expression of your spirituality and your connection to something bigger.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what we're all here to do?
Oh yeah, I'm really feeling that. And you're reminding me, actually, there's a beautiful Australian Aboriginal and First Nations person on North Stradbroke, Lucy Carmichael. She does the most beautiful art, but one of the things she does is braiding hair, and her mum had Herschel breast cancer.
I just got goosebumps.
And she did some artwork with her hair, her mum's hair, and her sister's hair.
Oh wow!
How
beautiful!
It really was.
I actually heard about that. Yes,
Yeah.
I've just got full body.
Wow.
She's the most
Goosebumps.
beautiful artist, and just an incredible soul. Very
It just sounds so.
unique person, but beautiful family. And just when it just took me straight there when you said that, and just.
Then there's powerful energy on North Stradbroke Island. Like, I spent quite a few years when I was a child. I grew up there from about the age of 2 till 6.
Oh wow!
So it has it's one of those places where I'm like, oh, this feels like home.
Yeah.
And growing up in that school there, was it Dunwich Primary School? I think it's called.
It is, that's it.
Because Kath Walker was there.
Right.
So we had black
This
dolls,
Indigenous,
and we had Indigenous stories.
Yeah.
Like, it actually was a part of
It's a
our
very
educational
proud
system
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 45.
Yeah.
We're talking 40 years ago.
Yeah.
That was there.
Yeah.
We're still trying to get that into mainstream schools now, like decades
such a
later.
fight.
Yeah, it seems just so stupid, doesn't it? When it's part of us and part of who we are. Yeah.
And the songlines and the beautiful, because when you're talking about all the other cultures that you've been diving into, I mean, the culture that is there and the depth of storytelling.
The
the
depth
oldest
of
on the
connection
planet,
to
isn't
the
it?
land.
Yeah.
The oldest known peoples on the planet.
Yeah.
We were in the Whitsundays a couple of weeks ago. We took a retreat up there, and we went to a cave that was up in the Nara Inlet. And 9,000 years of they found evidence of the First Nations people there 9,000 years ago. Like, that's... I'm looking at this cave.
I know. It's
like, you can't go
insane,
into the cave. Like, you can kind of look. There's a gate there, but I'm looking into this cave, like, just trying to imagine the generations and what they look like at the beginning and to the end, to the, like, it's just unfathomable.
And what they knew. You know, what they knew about the skies and the stars and all of that, and
how
who
they
they were
lived
communicating with.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
And the
It's
dream time, that's just...
it's been shut down. That's another podcast.
Right?
So that goes deep. That runs
It really
deep.
does.
It does.
And that's not my place to be sharing their information.
It's just so interesting. Yeah, we'll respect that, and we'll park that one there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So part of the awakening with you delving into, I love the fact that, and I had goosies when you were talking about how you were feeling out all the different cultures and where you felt resonance from, and that what was bringing you this expansiveness to kind of move into. What else was happening there, and when you found the calling for whatever it was, where did you go with that?
Yeah, the calling was really strong with the kahuna work, because it has that, it's the Hawaiian shamans. And so I had been apprenticed to the sweet medicine, this this Native American tradition for a few years, which I loved. Like, I love their ceremony. I love sweat lodges. I love,
I do too.
and
feel a
quite
great connection with it.
challenging ceremonies. You know, like, I've spent a night in the hole in the ground, and I've, you know, like,
wow.
they are rites of passage.
Yeah.
They are not just like, oh yeah, this was easy.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, you need to be challenged, and these are the tools, and this is why. You know,
Wow.
to become an adult and
Yeah.
a part of society. We're really missing that in society. How to shift from child to adult, and all of those words we were using: self-responsible, self-aware,
Yeah.
accountable. And I loved it because it, you know, as the Leo who always felt like the warrior woman, it was like so amazing and such a great community. And I had self-medicated with things like marijuana and when I realised I could find those places on my own through ceremony, when I realised I could find the places I was looking for through ceremony, my life changed.
Yeah.
And then Kahuna came along, and it went from that way of the warrior to the way of the adventurer.
Oh.
So I felt like I shifted from the masculine, which
Yeah.
I was really good at,
Yeah.
into the feminine.
Yeah.
It felt like a gentler approach.
Yeah.
And that really resonated for me in the exploration I was trying to do of honouring the feminine, and what does that look like, and how does it show up in me and in my life, and how can I express it in ways that are accepted, or, you know, all of that stuff. And it's been a lifelong journey, but it's what I loved about, like, Kahuna is also called Hawaiian temple style massage, and
Beautiful.
it feels like you are being honoured.
It does.
anointed.
I've had a few,
Right?
and I love the fact that they use their whole body, and it's
Yeah.
like a dance with
It's like
each other,
a
and
dance.
yeah, it's beautiful.
a flow.
Yeah.
It's an energy exchange. It's
Yeah.
not just one person doing something to another person.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's not just physical, it's spiritual, it's mental, it's emotional, all of those things.
Yeah.
Intuitive.
Yeah, it's intuitive, and all of those things get touched on. It's not just this physical massage, not just a remedial this. It's the whole shebang.
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, me too. It's like, I want one
Yes.
now.
I know. I want one now too. It's been a while. Too long.
Just on that too, I just want to talk about, because you've had the masculine and you've felt that and
Yes.
you've embraced that, and now you're feeling the feminine, but you haven't
Yeah.
dropped the masculine, have you? You've kind of
No.
incorporated that in still. We haven't
Yeah.
let go of it because it's worked for you and it's supported you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we all have it within
Yeah.
us. Look, I won't lie, that pendulum did swing.
Yeah, right.
You know, it
Yeah.
was like I was super onto it, like in a masculine environment, doing all of the,
Yeah.
you know, the job I had was on the computer crunching numbers.
Yeah.
Like, I had done it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to do something else, and I didn't quite know what it was supposed to look or feel like, because, you know, it's kind of grown out of you at a young age, isn't it, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, to go corporate is kind of
Yeah.
it's highly acceptable, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
and
career
you
path.
can't be emotional when you're surrounded by men
Yes.
who aren't emotional and who don't take you seriously if
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
You know, so I prided myself on being strong and as boy as the boys
Yeah.
were, like all of that kind of stuff. So then, yeah, that pendulum had to kind of swing probably further than I would have liked to really incorporate and feel like I experienced all of the juiciness that
Yeah.
that feminine could be.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I've come back to that center place
Yeah.
where,
Yeah.
and look, some days look better than others.
Yes.
Of course, I'm still human, but it is a constant dance.
Yeah.
You don't just find a balance and that's it. There's the scales,
Yes.
there's enough of that and there's enough of that. 60-40 is what works for me. Like, some days I've got to put that masculine hat on, especially when you're running a business,
Yeah.
especially when you're still a single mum.
Yeah.
Yeah, like those, it just is. And it's beautiful when we can realize that we have those within us.
Yeah.
It's only when we feel confined to those gender roles that it can be toxic, whether it's toxic feminine or masculine.
Yeah.
Because it's forced.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's this perception out there that, you know, when you are, even the word spiritual is kind of so thrown around, but when you become more aware or awake, you have to be softly spoken. And, you know, but I think over the last few years, there's been this freedom in, no, you can still be this, if you want to be a hard-ass woman, you can still be aware and conscious and going for it.
Strong force.
There's none of this.
Absolutely.
You have to be softly spoken and say the right things and not swear and, you know, whatever. It's like, that's more for the woke people now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that lady down the road who looks like a total bitch, she's going for it, you know? It's like, and sit down and speak to her and you'll have an amazing conversation with her.
Right.
She in her own right, because she's living her best life through her authentic self.
Yeah. We're still so backwards when it comes to gender expectations, really, and gender roles. Like, it's just so weird to me. You know what's still weird to me? That men don't wear dresses and skirts.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
Right.
Where is it written that is clothing they are not allowed to wear?
Yeah,
And
right.
when they put a dress on, they love it.
Yeah.
I tell you,
Yeah.
so many guys love that
Right.
feeling.
Yeah.
Because it's free, for one.
We
Well,
know
it
what it
doesn't
feels like to
mean-
wear a dress. We
Yes.
love it. That's why we wear them. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they have to cut off their penis or
It doesn't
you know,
mean they've
any of
become a
that.
woman.
That's right.
They can be a man
Yes.
Yeah.
wearing a dress.
And feeling wonderful in it. Yeah.
I mean, how
And
manly
loving
are
it.
Scottish guys in kilts? I mean, there's nothing more sexy than a guy in a kilt.
Yeah.
And they're very manly.
Yeah.
Have you seen
So-
that amazing lawyer? I think he's in America.
Oh, no, but it is ringing a bell.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
his name. I've only seen pictures. I have heard his name, but I can't remember it. And he is like, he's a nice,
Yeah.
strong-looking, masculine energy.
Yes.
And quite often he has like this business suit top, and he'll wear skirts and high heels.
Oh, no.
And he rocks
wow.
it.
They're not what I'm thinking.
Love it.
Yeah,
So love
how
it.
gorgeous is
He
that?
That's
rocks
wild.
it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
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 That feels right, you know, like it's kind of
There's
a,
too many rules. There's
Yeah.
too many
So
rules already.
many
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's too many rules already, and now there's so many more rules.
Mm.
And they limit you. And
Yeah.
I know that, you know, when I dove into the shamanic, the Native American shamanic stuff, like decades ago, and loved it, it just, I embodied it. It became part of who I was moving forward, because it felt like my medicine. And then there were people who were saying I couldn't share it, and I wasn't allowed to, and I was going to get in trouble. And so
Wow.
for decades, I just kind of, it was like the hidden part of me.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh yeah,
That would
like
have been difficult.
really, really difficult. And it wasn't until maybe the last 5 years, and I really missed having those shamanic conversations. I really missed the vocabulary that was
Yeah.
around it. And then someone introduced me to this woman who was doing shamanic work on the Gold Coast, who was running workshops, and I was like, yeah, it's been too long. I'm going to go along to it. And it was it just woke it all back
Oh,
up
how
and
beautiful.
gave me that permission to own it and
Yeah.
be it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
yeah.
you know, we've all seen the people who've done one weekend workshop, and now they're like the shamanic
Yeah,
priestess
the
of the
guru.
whatever.
Yeah.
This is around a lot lately,
Right?
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
And, like,
crazy.
We don't want to be that. We don't
Yeah.
want to be that.
Yes.
Because that feels dishonoring.
Yes.
But also, we want to own who we
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
And it's such a fine line to try and walk these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, honouring yourself and honouring all others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the biggest thing of all that we've found, especially with doing the podcast, is that because we've had so many healers, and there's always space for more healers. We
Yeah,
love that.
Absolutely.
And there's new things coming through that
Yeah.
are being born in the moment, you know, with these women that are like finding themselves, and they're finding these modalities that we've maybe never heard of before. You know,
Yeah.
that they're being born. It's like you
Yes.
don't have to be like, we've had a lot of shamanic healers, but they're all different.
Yeah.
And they all have their
Lightworkers,
own unique
all different kind of combinations of
Yeah.
modalities.
Yeah.
And to share their language.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Their
people
own
that come to them.
signature. It's
Yeah.
really beautiful. Yeah.
And what we call your sacred medicine.
Yes.
Like why you're here.
Yes.
What, like, really?
Yeah.
Do people really think we're just here to, like, buy houses and eat food
Yes.
and go to school
Yes.
and then die?
Yes, they do.
I know they
There's
do. It's
plenty.
kind of a rhetorical question. Many do.
Yeah, no,
and I
yeah.
find that very sad.
Sad, yeah.
But there's so many people that are waking up. They're
shaking,
awakening.
yeah.
And a lot of women.
Yeah.
Like a lot of women are embodying the feminine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
And then we need to find ways to infiltrate that back into mainstream society instead of it still being like a women's area then. So now healers is like a feminine thing. So
Yeah.
then it's still not really honoured. It's like this,
Exclusive clubs still.
yeah, or it's the underpaid
Sure,
hobby on the
yeah.
side. You can't
Hobby on the side.
That they can only do.
afford
this
to
is-
live
yes.
by doing it. Like,
Yes.
you know, it still becomes women's work, like nursing or childcare or, Yeah, so when we
Not a
can
real job still.
Yeah,
a
so when we
hobby.
can embody the feminine and find those ways to bring it back into the corporate world,
Yeah.
and bring it back into all of the places that we inhabit as
Yeah.
human women in the
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
like that's when change is going to happen, like
Yeah.
real deep
Yeah.
transformation. Of
It's beautiful.
How we do
It
life.
is happening. It is
Absolutely.
happening. I know my hubby, he's been running retreats with men
Yes,
and
so
putting the
needed.
love back in.
Oh,
and
so needed.
And
I
feminine,
was saying to
deeply
Amanda,
connecting
yeah,
with feminine.
I've been watching some of the video reviews, or what do you call it, testimonials,
Oh, yeah.
and I literally just cried the whole time
Yes.
because they're like little boys saying, I never knew that I had this love inside of me, and I'm going to go home and love my wife, and I'm going to love my kids. It's like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
they've been doing this corporate thing or doing this work, because that's the way society tells them that they, you know, you got to be
Yeah.
a man, you got to provide. But bullshit, no, you don't.
And
Well, there's lots of men who also don't.
Yes.
True.
Who just skip out on their responsibilities.
Yeah.
And a part of my thinking around that, and I'm always open to being wrong, is them missing that rite of passage that happens from boy to man.
Yeah.
Because what's our rite of passage for boy to man these days? Go out and get drunk.
Yeah.
Or go out and do
Yes.
something stupid.
Yeah.
There's not that
Shut
go
up
out
and
and
stop
find out
that,
how to
don't
live on
cry,
the land.
step out.
Like, go out and find out who you really are.
Yeah.
What's important to you. Yeah, like that is so missing. So missing.
Well,
from
that
men.
goes back to the indigenous. The,
Absolutely.
what do they call that? The walk of law or something. When they're 16, they have to walk the song line.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that still happens now. I
Good.
was told all about that when we went to the Kimberleys, and it would blow your mind what happens. It's crazy.
And it's just in communities that are run by the elders.
Yes, that's really interesting. That's a true rite of passage right there, isn't it?
It's a
Yeah.
true rite of passage,
Yeah.
and we are missing them because they are transformational. They help propel us from one phase of life to another.
Yeah.
They are catalysts for change, and when a whole community supports you in it,
Yes.
you can't help but change. You're going to be changing inside and out. Like that's DNA changing stuff right there. Like
Yeah.
that's thoughts become things. That's
Yes.
yeah.
It's so true.
That's where the magic's at, the quantum field.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, the quantum field.
Quantum field.
Talking about that. I love we can call it the quantum field now because it makes the spiritual sound tangible.
Yes.
And I love how there's parameters around it, and there's science, and there's research, and there's Joe Dispenzas, and there's,
Yes.
you know, all these people going, hey, epigenetics,
Yes.
just a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And-
Oh, God.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's tangible. It's like it's scientifically
Yeah.
proven.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've used that word.
It's
know.
scientifically proven. Right. Yeah.
But
Well,
it
I think
helps.
one of the earliest books I read on quantum healing was, I'm pretty sure her name's Barbara Ann Brennan, and she used to be a NASA physicist.
Oh, wow.
And she, long story short, went from that to being an energy healer, and talking about the auras of plants and this and that, and it was all based on quantum theory.
Yeah.
Because that was her shit. That was what she knew, and she went from NASA to Reiki and hands-on healing and energy fields, and it was all scientifically, you know, quantum theory based.
Yep.
You can't lie about the
Yeah.
quantum
Yeah.
energy
Theory.
field. It
You
is
can
really-
try,
But that's a big denial,
That's
that
a
one.
big
It's just
denial.
like, okay then,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Don't
so-
create your own reality then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you still are by default, but all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we've jumped, haven't we? But that's
That's
good.
what I do.
Yeah, we love that. So
Jump
do
all
we.
over the
Yeah.
place.
So, back to the awakening side of things.
How many times you
Because
tried to
we're
bring us back
woke
there?
Now we're way
Yeah,
awake.
We're
now.
way awake. Oh yeah, we can't go back
Um,
to sleep.
Did you feel like you had to make any significant changes? I don't. This question's kind of, I don't know whether it's even going to have an answer to it because I feel
Well, I
like
think
maybe
I
I've
think
answered
we've kind
it.
of touched on it, but then when you ask it, it actually opens it
It
up.
resonates, yeah.
Yeah.
So, was there any significant changes that you had to make in your life when you started to become
Yeah.
conscious of there was more than just you, your body?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
changes,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah.
Like your relationships have to change.
Yes.
You're more aware of what's toxic. I already felt like I was super sensitive.
Yeah.
But I became more so because once you know what the sweet spot feels like, you want to go back there.
Yeah.
So you become more aware of like, oh, hang on, that takes me out of my sweet spot, or that does, or this does.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes I've lamented being so sensitive. Like it's just been like, I just want to be able to do what everyone else does and eat all the things and do all the stuff and, you know, drink all the drinks.
Yes.
And, yeah, but I can't.
Doesn't
Right.
work. It doesn't,
it doesn't
work. that
work.
way. Yeah.
Like it does, but
Takes
you're
you out.
miserable. It's
Yeah.
not. It doesn't feel good, and I
Yeah.
want to feel good
yeah.
these days
Because
I know
once you've felt good,
Right.
the sweet spot.
that,
I
yeah,
like that you
and
said that.
so it's challenging. It requires boundary setting.
Yeah.
It requires tapping into knowing what's true for you, and because you can't set boundaries if you don't know what's true for you, and you don't know what you really need or desire, and you don't know what works for you or doesn't work for you. Sometimes it means pushing through the no's to make sure they're really a no, and not just a, oh, I don't want to go there, and then you're like, oh no, that was a no. But now I
I should have known that was a no.
know. Well, yeses are kind of easy. Like yeses, you're like, oh, that's a yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you just, it might be hard to honour it or follow it, but you still knew it was a yes.
Yes.
But no's can be a bit like, oh, have I just got resistance to
Yes,
that? Is
yes.
that somewhere I need to
Yeah.
explore? Am I just closed down to it? Is that just old patterns? Is that this? Is that that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad
And we
you
had
said
we
it.
had a
That's
beautiful
so good.
podcast with a beautiful girl, and one of her yeses was because of FOMO.
yeah, right.
You know, purely based on that. And
Yeah.
you know, sometimes, like you said,
That's pretty
understanding.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful
Yeah.
motivator. You know, just not wanting to miss out.
Yep.
Even-
Especially if all your friends are doing something and you're
absolutely.
like getting this nudge, no, that's not right. And you're like,
Exactly.
and you've got all your friends saying, but come.
Yeah.
It's
like,
fun, you know, and then it's,
Yeah.
you know, you push against.
Yeah.
it's another level of responsibility, really, isn't it?
It's self-responsibility.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to a client yesterday, you know, about the DeadBite. Not whether it's food or drink or a relationship or an experience you're having, is knowing when the, oh, that's bringing me pleasure turns into, meh, not so much, to, oh, I really don't like this anymore. Like
Yeah.
that first moment where it's like, this feels good and it gives me energy, and then it turns into, not so much.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Like,
Listen to that.
you can't do that with everything. Obviously, we have responsibilities, and sometimes even with our kids, we can go, right, you're not bringing me joy anymore. I'm out. You figure it out on your own. Like, we do still have accountability and
Yes.
responsibility in all of those sorts of things, but it could mean, I don't know, it's one of these beautiful things. When I learned when I became a yoga teacher, I was learning how to be a yoga teacher, and I was doing pregnancy and postnatal and all of that kind of stuff. And I was frustrated because I used to love yoga before I had a child, and then who gets an hour on the mat, right? And the yoga teacher said to me, yeah, so now we just do yoga snacks.
Ooh, yoga snacks.
Right, and so now I think about lots of things: spiritual snacks, yoga snacks, meditation snacks. Like, I
great
used to
idea.
have, like, if I'm going to be interrupted, I don't even want to start it because that's just going to feel horrible.
Oh, I love that.
And so now it's like, well, now it's different because she's 16. But then it was like,
Yeah.
just do a downward dog.
5 minutes here, 5
Right.
minutes there. Yeah.
Feed
Just-
up the wall.
I love that. Yeah.
and those things.
Don't throw it all out.
Don't throw it all
Yeah.
out. And also transitioning from one stage to another. So if I'm going from, you know, I've been cleaning up the house to a client's arriving, like, that's a doorway, that's a threshold, that's
Yes.
a portal. Like, don't just rush into the next thing.
Rushing.
Take a moment.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a breath.
Yeah.
Pausing. Okay, here we go. You know, when people are getting married, the ceremonies don't go for that long.
Yeah.
They've been planning for this thing
Oh,
for, like,
yeah.
sometimes years.
Yeah.
And then if it can be over in 15 minutes and they weren't even present for it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm always saying to my couples, where's no rush?
Yes.
Stop. If you're walking down the aisle and you're in front of your partner, just stop.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Drop into the moment. Like,
Yeah.
we're here to be witnesses for you. We'll wait.
Oh,
You know,
that's so
like-
beautiful.
They're those moments when we
Shekinah's
can
a
capture
marriage
them.
celebrant, by the way.
Yeah. And both Joe and I had marriage
Yes,
celebrants.
we
at
did,
our-
yes.
at our- and it was, yeah.
It was exactly like you. She was beautiful. Yeah.
Very blessed. But
I
yeah,
remember getting-
that's a
and-
sacred moment in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You know,
It
just
is.
to stop and pause.
Just to stop and pause.
Yeah.
And that's all meditation is.
Mm.
Teaching you how to be able to stop and pause like that. It takes us an hour to figure out, oh, right. And then, but we get better at it.
Yeah.
We get better at it. And then we're there in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, or we can take a breath and go, huh, I'm there.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Next. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of the goal.
The little moments.
All of the things lead to that
Yeah.
sort of place, don't they?
And you just listening to you talk, I get a sense of like that spinning disc and that stop and pause. It gets slow and slow and then just stops. Ah,
Yeah.
and then the spinning starts again, but it's not as frantic, you know.
And
That's what it feels like when you're talking.
That's
like that.
that's such a perfect analogy, because I started doing it when I realized my nervous system was fried from so many years of pushing, and then, you know, diving into polyvagal theory and all of that kind of stuff. And I had this awareness. I can't remember, I read a lot of books, so I can't remember if I read it or if it was just one of those epiphanies I got after reading a lot of different information, going, but there was just this sense of, even when I was taking inspired action, because I thought, when I'm taking inspired action, surely my nervous system should just be like cool, right?
Yeah.
Yet I'd still get to the end of the day and kind of feel a bit fried and think, but I had a day of like being in flow and blah blah blah, like what's going on? But when you think that it's taken decades of patterning to get your nervous system and your adrenals just like, there's a way they've learnt how to be, because you needed the adrenaline and the cortisol or whatever to get stuff done, especially as women, because we don't have the testosterone to give us the energy. So to keep up in the yang society of doing, achieving, being superwoman, because we can have it all, which means we've got to do it all, you know, means we've got to draw on other biological, physiological resources, and usually that's our adrenal glands get pushed, and that's why we end up with chronic fatigue and cancer and all of those sorts of things. So so when I was getting to the end of the day and thinking, why do I still feel so tired and fried? I feel like I'm doing all of the things that are good for me. I realized that my nervous system just ramps up. Like it just keeps going like a steam train, you know? So when I could stop it, like you were saying, when I could stop it, it's like it didn't get that opportunity to be going full steam, like just off the tracks, because I kept reining it back. No, we're just going to stop and take a breath. We're hopping out of a car. Hang on. Let's just stop and take a breath. And so it did. It just kept resettling the nervous system.
You're training it. Basically.
So healthy for the body. It's so important.
Yes. So I love how you explained it. That's
how I heard you say it. So
that's
that's
so cool.
Because it's all in the quantum field, right?
That's real. But it's powerful, because people often say, I don't know how to stop.
Exactly.
I don't know how to relax.
I don't have an off button.
I don't have an off button.
No.
And it's
or they think they're relaxing and they aren't. Like I talk to clients all the time. I say, look, relaxing isn't just stopping. Relaxing is softening. So I try to use the word softening instead of relaxing these days. It's like, when do you soften? Like you could stop and watch Netflix for 5 hours, but did you actually relax? Did you feel yourself soften? Did you melt into the couch? Did you surrender? Was it guilt-free? Did you break, like all of those, if you didn't have all of those things, you weren't relaxed. You just stopped doing the things you thought you should be doing.
I think you just said it perfectly. I think a lot of women feel guilt too.
So much guilt. It's ridiculous.
Around stopping and just giving themselves. It's that self-nurture. It's that self. Just looking after ourselves. Basically, we don't
to fill the cup that keeps just coming back. And
it's
back
honouring the
back.
feminine.
It
brings me back to what I first wanted to do, was teach women how to honour the feminine, and that means valuing pottering around the house without a to-do list to tick off. You know, like that's what we don't get to do, but that's where creativity comes from.
Took the words out of my mouth. It literally goes back to the whole girl awakening. It's like that's where it starts and that's where it ends. Well, it never ends, but that's where it's in those moments of stillness and allowing and nurture and self-nurture that we get the space to feel ourselves, and that's where it starts.
And that's the perfect word. I love that word too. Spaciousness. I say, are you softening and creating space? Does it feel spacious? Like if it doesn't have those components, you're probably not relaxed. Your nervous system probably might have gone from like to but it's still not let go. It's still not come out of fight or flight. Really.
Because we can't hear anything in that space. There's nothing else going on.
We can hear the loudest thing.
It's the bzzz, the white noise.
But not the intuitive things. Not the messages, the internal, like, do this for me now. Because we're neglected and we need this thing to feel good. It's just like, up.
That's not good enough.
It's not good enough.
That's not one. It's not on my list.
Well, it's at the bottom of my list, and I never quite get to the bottom because things keep going on the top.
Never.
Yeah,
You know,
so
right.
important.
On the top.
Yeah.
I know, I just shared a meme, I think it was yesterday. I was like, oh, look at me putting all of my last week's to-do list on this week's to-do list. It's like, because it never ends. It
Yes.
just gets longer and longer
Yeah.
and longer. There's
Yeah.
always something new.
Yeah.
And
Always.
the spaciousness, the softening,
It gets.
the filling the cup keeps getting pushed down the
Yeah.
bottom because it is a luxury somehow.
Yeah.
You know, it's, yeah.
I
And
think.
we all have different needs as
Yeah.
well. Like, I'm an introvert, so my needs are alone time.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
have
yeah.
to. That's where I process my feelings and my experiences and self-reflect and do all those things. But you know, I know that extroverts don't need as much of that. And they're kind of like, no, I love it when I'm around all of my people. And I
Yeah.
think, oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah. 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 We each have our way, don't we?
We each have our way.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, just because someone does it this way doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. It's like finding your spaciousness.
Finding your
Yeah,
spaciousness.
yeah,
And your softness.
So the softening, the spaciousness. Another aspect of that, like from the quantum energy field to physical, you mentioned about going through breast cancer.
Yeah.
That's a softening, isn't it? Because you have to surrender to that suddenly, don't you? Once you know. How did you discover you had breast cancer?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I'd always had quite dense breasts, which as a young woman was amazing.
Oh yeah.
As you know, after breastfeeding and doing all the things, I always felt like I had lots of lumps. And then there was just one in particular that I was like, yeah, I feel like I've got this big lump. So I went to a doctor and they were like, well, you know, we do the ultrasound. And that's when they went, well, actually you've got quite a few. And there's a few that we think we should have a look at. And it was from that moment, because straight away they wanted to do fine needle biopsy. And I was kind of like, well, what is that? Let's have a look at it. And when I researched it, to me, it felt like a no. Because if it was cancer, I didn't like the idea of it
popping
being
it, yeah,
punctured,
Yes.
right? And
I
seeding
hear you.
outside of the tumour that
Yes.
was encapsulated.
yes,
So that then extended what for most women would be a very short journey of like, right, we've stuck a needle in it, we've realised it's cancer, we're bringing it out, we're doing all of these things, to is it, isn't it, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at natural remedies, let's do this, let's do that. And least invasive things were the most important thing for me.
yeah,
So, and obviously those things cost more money because they're not covered by Medicare and they're not
Of
the
course they're
mainstream
not.
things.
So
Yeah.
funded your own house journey.
Yeah,
basically,
as a
isn't it?
single mom running my own business, it was tough. It was
Yeah.
really tough, which probably that extra pressure added to the tumour actually growing.
yes, yeah,
But I was so lucky to find a most amazing integrative doctor. Like, I'm not sure I would have made it through so unscathed if I hadn't have had her.
wow.
There's not a lot of integrative doctors who are super up on all of the medical stuff and at that leading edge of what's going on.
Yeah,
Yes.
But can also bring in all of the natural therapies and give you a choice and actually give you a choice. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like we've been talking about feeling empowered in your choices, and the medical system isn't so great at wanting people to feel empowered
True.
in making choices, whether it's through birth or whether it's through some other thing that's happening to
Cancer.
you. Yeah, we're kind of taught as we're growing up to give it over to the professionals. They know more than us, and, you know,
wow.
just listen to what they're saying.
Yeah,
So I was really very grateful to have her, and I know she's retired now, but she does amazing work up at Gwingana, Dr.
Yeah.
Karen Coates.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Amazing person.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, how fortunate was
Yeah,
I?
that's so.
The quantum field was on my
I
side.
was going to say, what a
Yeah,
creation on your behalf too. Like
Yeah.
to stand in what your truth,
Yeah.
and have that, create that.
Yeah,
You know?
and to have someone go, look, these are the ways we could go. What do you want to do?
oh,
What's
wow.
And as a from a
So
recent
beautiful.
experience with family member, what's your best investment
Yes.
of time and energy?
Right.
And
And-
that's powerful.
And
isn't it,
having
to
those
look at it?
conversations. Like, yeah, hey, you're still young.
Yeah.
So, and your immune system's strong. And so this means we've got these options we can be looking at too, and all of those sorts of things. So,
Wow.
one of the biggest things I feel like I learnt through that rite of passage journey, I was a very hyper independent person.
Yeah.
Very. And
I can sense
Only
that.
that.
I love that.
She breathes into
Yes.
it and hears that word again.
yes. And I was always kind of proud of it too.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Oh,
a
yeah.
strong woman and I can do it all myself.
Absolutely.
But it was through believing that I should be able to do it all myself that
or that you could do anything. I love
Yeah.
like there's no
because I
there's no-
can
you can
do anything.
Absolutely.
But no one should be having to do everything on their own.
Yes,
And
yes.
so that was kind of the
Learning to be able
I needed
have
to learn
support
that.
and
Yeah,
receive
yeah.
nurturing,
Yeah.
receive care.
And I didn't learn that until like Karen sort of said, look, maybe you should see a therapist at the same time as going through this because it's a really big thing
Yeah.
and there's all of these stuff. And so I did. And I remember that therapist saying to me, why do you think you have to do everything on your own? I'm like, I don't know, isn't that what everyone does? Like, doesn't everyone do everything on their own? Like, isn't that what we do?
Yes.
And she said, no. No, most people have extended family and sisters and uncles and brothers and, but, you know, like support networks that help them when they need help. And so we need to be finding a support structure
Yeah.
for you moving forward.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first time I got,
Wow.
that's why community is important.
Yeah.
That's so there was a vulnerability that came, especially being a Leo woman, and pride and all of those things, where I actually had to find humbleness. I had to ask for help and then allow myself to receive it.
Wow.
Like that was really big learnings for me.
Yeah.
And even when I finally ended up going and having surgery just to remove the tumor, and at this point we still had not done a fine needle biopsy to definitively say yes, this is cancer. I've been getting blood tests done at a place in Germany that tested for circulating tumor cells. So
Yeah.
we've been keeping an eye on the count and
Yes.
obviously getting ultrasounds to see if it was changing in size.
Yeah.
And in 1 year,
So responsibility, you weren't ignoring it.
Oh,
You
well,
were
oh,
fully
no,
acknowledging.
no. And
Yeah.
I was cleaning up my eating, I was
Yeah.
doing all of the things,
Yeah.
but also energy flows where attention goes, and a lot of
Yes.
attention was going on that lump
Yeah.
in my breast,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
grew.
Well, it's hard not to.
Oh, it was impossible not to.
I think about these things too. And that even that saying, you know, energy flows where
Yeah,
focus
attention goes,
yeah,
yeah.
whatever it is. It's right. Even in that saying that,
Yeah.
you go straight away. "Ooh."
Yeah.
We'd be
We're
thinking
talking our conversation
there.
about it.
Yeah.
I'm feeling my breasts.
You're
right
feeling
now.
Yeah.
I'm not touching them.
So
they're
how do
just
you
feeling
not
there, you know,
think
like,
about
yeah.
that? Like seriously.
And when you could see it, you know,
Yeah.
and so by the time I went, and Karen again sort of went, look, we can keep doing these things, or we could take that tumor out, and then we can focus on
yes.
making the rest of you healthy, so anything that might be left over, because we've all got cancer cells moving through us at any particular time, but our immune system just takes care of it. When we focus on all those other things, there's less for your immune system to have to do, like for it to try to get rid of a whole big tumor, like that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Or we could help it out, and I can't, and that's when I had to go, oh, okay, thank goodness there's the Western model of medical care
Yeah.
too, where I could go to an expert surgeon
Yes.
who knows what they're doing, who could just take that tumor out,
Yeah.
and it was gone. And then all I needed to focus on was making sure anything that was left over didn't sort of take root and become something
It
else
just makes
secondary.
sense, doesn't
It
it?
ma-
When you
it
when
made
you
sense
say
to
it,
me.
yeah. When
Yeah.
you say it, it's like I reckon I would have done
And
what
yeah,
you did.
and it's
Yeah.
you know, that's you said Western medicine. You have a beautiful person who's trained in their craft.
Yeah.
You hand over your body for them to share their skill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take something out that you no longer need, no longer
Yeah,
serves you,
doesn't
as
serve me,
part
that's
of a
right.
little capsule of stuff that isn't you anymore.
Yeah.
It's become something else.
Yes.
It was
And
never
then-
you anyway.
No.
It was never part of you. Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
are, back in the seat again of.
One of the beautiful things I remember going through the journey, because at the start I felt betrayed by my body. I was like, come on, body.
Yeah.
Have we not been through enough? Why would you do this to us? This isn't right. This isn't fair. And why can't we get rid of it? You know, I was like, I'm all over this shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why isn't it working? I've done this, I've done that. I'm like, why are you still getting bigger? And someone said to me, but what if you thought about your body being on your side, and that fatty tissue in your breasts was the best place for toxic things to be put.
Wow,
Because
yes.
they were in your body, they weren't going, because I am a holder.
Yeah.
I like to hold on to things. So if it was going to have to stay in your body, your breasts were kind of like the best place your body could have put it. And I went,
What a great viewpoint.
Yeah,
what a clever
fair
body,
enough.
right? I went from like, you betrayed me to,
Yeah.
actually,
Thank you, body.
you're on my side. Well done, body.
Great job.
Yeah, and that perspective shift
Yeah.
of, instead of feeling like I was the victim and everything was out to get me, right, like we're
Yeah.
in this together. Like, how can I support the, optimal health and well-being from this place? And
Wow.
yeah, that was huge too.
Yeah.
There was just so many epiphanies through
Yeah.
that journey. It was probably one of the biggest, rites of passage
Well,
that I've
you-
been through.
Yeah.
In
so-
that time, you would have had to just stop everything.
Well, you can't, because I was a single mum running my own business. I didn't have income protection or someone else to pay my bills for me.
Yeah, right.
So when I had the surgery, it was one of the reasons I put the surgery off, because I can't take time off after having surgery.
Wow.
And then I thought I'd only need a couple of weeks, because it was only like a 2.5 centimetre, not only. It
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
It was
yes.
right at the point where if it had got bigger, they probably would have tried to take my whole breast.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, let's
No,
just
I need that.
do this.
Yes.
But it took me 8 weeks to be able to get full range of movement back, to be a massage therapist.
Yeah,
Right? It's not
of
like I was just sitting at a
course.
desk.
Yeah.
Like
True.
yeah. So like that 8 weeks, that was hard.
For someone that does it all. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
who doesn't, so there's no income for that time.
Yeah.
And then the modalities that I chose, because I didn't do chemo and I didn't do radiation, I did other things that felt a lot more in alignment, all massively out of pocket expensive.
Wow.
I had to draw on my superannuation.
Yeah.
Lucky me, I don't have any anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
But
Wow.
also so grateful that those modalities were
Available.
available
Yeah.
just up the road from me. Like it was, people were flying from all over Australia to go to the clinic I could drive 10 minutes to.
Wow.
Like it was just, it's just so many things lined up, and it's such a gift in
Yeah.
how it all came together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're
Powerful
clear
medicine.
now?
Yeah, it's been like, it was 5 years in April.
Wow,
well
that's so
done.
I
beautiful.
know,
Yeah.
which felt like a milestone.
Yeah.
That 5 years. It's kind of like,
So-
okay, because there's kind of lots of researchers around the 5-year mark, isn't
Oh,
it? Like,
okay.
yeah, the 5 year and then the 10-year.
Right.
And for those first few years, like every niggle, I'd be like,
Yes.
because
I
the
can
cancer back.
imagine,
Like,
yeah.
and I'd have to keep talking myself down, like, well, if you're worried the cancer's back, the cancer might come back.
You
like,
might wake
let's-
it up. Like,
yeah, like all those conversations you have with yourself, like just keep feeling good, working on stress levels, because that's just the biggest thing that causes, resentment, stress, all of those things, and just keep evolving and growing and changing and becoming the best person you can be. And if cancer comes back, you'll do what feels right to do in the moment.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a death sentence.
Yeah.
Approach that wheel when it rolls along.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about it now.
Yeah.
I was a warrior. I
Yeah.
worried about all of the things that could go wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Like the hyper-vigilant, and it didn't serve me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't serve me.
It's so interesting hearing you say that, because like you're the warrior. Did you
Uh-huh.
say the warrior or the warrior? You're both.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
It's so
worrying
interesting.
warrior.
Yes. That I was about to say. It's so weird hearing you say that, because on one hand, if just sitting here listening to you, and you just sound like a powerhouse to me, and this amazing woman that's just literally been going for it. And then to have cancer come in, and then you deal with that, you've had all these little kind of hiccups along the way, but you've handled them with so much grace. It's so beautiful, It's like what a wonderful journey you've had. What a wonderful ride you've had.
What a wonderful ride. But some days it looked ugly.
Yeah.
Some days it looked ugly. But,
Yeah.
I'm at the other side of a lot of those now.
Yeah.
But I'm on this side of menopause.
Yeah.
And that's now my biggest teacher of like, the powerhouse doesn't want to slow down, and the body's going, too bad. We don't have the energy we used to.
Yeah.
We don't. Soz, you're going to have to find a way to deal with that.
Yeah.
Challenging.
Yeah.
And really
It's
flow,
challenging.
but
Yeah.
challenging to find that rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Challenging to slow down.
Yeah.
And is that because I've been intrigued with the sailing adventures? Is that where because that's I get like with you know, the water, Pisces, you know, energy flow, spirit, those sort of things.
Yes.
Like, what drew you to that area as part of expressing?
I was really fortunate within the last 10 years to come across people, and particular people who did sailing adventures and who actually did sailing adventures up at Fraser or Gurry
Nice.
when the whales were around, as a part of the alchemy of having an amazing time. And I was able to go every year with this particular friend who enabled it to happen, which was amazing, because
Yeah.
as a single mum I didn't get holidays really.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I didn't really get, no, I didn't get holidays.
Yes,
No.
yes.
Yeah.
So it was such a gift, and it was a time out that I didn't get otherwise. Like, my daughter would come most of the time, which was also another gift. But when you're out sailing, you can't help but be in nature, because you are at the whim of the weather and the water and and quite often
Right.
there's no reception. So you've got to put the phones away. People can't reach you,
Yeah.
and you just come back into the natural cycles of day and night, and going with what feels right. So to me, it was such a beautiful gift for the feminine,
Yeah.
because it really values and honors what we think of as feminine aspect. We think of weather as, as feminine, and we talk about Gaia, Mother Earth as
Yeah.
feminine. Those nature kind of
Yeah.
has that feminine feel about it. So when we can go into it and realize how incredibly chaotic and powerful, but nurturing and easy and flowy and like all of the things, and then kind of feel that connection to, I'm kind of that too.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Like that really spoke to me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Being in tune, being in sync.
Being in tune and having that reset
Yeah.
once a year of like, I've just been like, always that nervous system, like, and then like, boom,
Yeah.
here we are. I'm waking up with the sunrise. I'm
Oh.
going to bed like
Yeah.
really early.
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm seeing birds and dolphins and whales, and I'm standing on pristine sand, and I'm going for adventures, and I'm connecting to the land, and I'm connecting to spirit, and it all feels shamanic.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's just gorgeous. And now I have the honor of being able to take people out to have those experiences as
Fabulous.
well. Yeah.
That's so
Because
beautiful.
the feeling of being on the water, that movement of the water as well, like that, just that rocking.
The gentle rocking.
Yeah.
It's like being a baby, when you
Nurtured,
pat
yeah.
and rock babies to sleep, because that's good for the nervous system. It settles it down. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is
It's a
just
natural-
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. And going to sleep in it. And this last year, August, when we did it, the whale song was so loud that like just sleeping in the hull of the boat, it was just
wow.
like it was there.
Oh, wow.
So like
Are they
just to
talking to you?
going full woo woo,
The
right?
echo.
Akashic record keeper, whale
Wow.
song, DNA light code,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Like just being bathed in that for hours while you're sleeping, and I didn't stop until like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's
Yeah.
like that shit changes you.
Yeah.
And I can't organise that.
Yeah.
Like that just happened to
Yeah.
happen.
How can it
But,
not? Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a big trust that comes in when you go out to have those experiences too, because nature's going to do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And you can try and have weather forecasts, and it's still going to like go, no, we decided we're going to blow from this direction today.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah,
no, you
the
won't.
whales aren't going to be here, so you don't get to experience that
Yeah.
Akashic
Right.
woo-woo moment.
What
you
else?
know?
How are you going to
We want
find...
you to hear it, so here they are.
Yeah, how are you going to find the other moment? How are
Yeah.
you going to find another woo-woo moment? How are you going to trust that this is part of your adventure, or this is the piece you needed, or this is... So, yeah, like, love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
So
incredible. It's
beautiful.
so beautiful to be honoured in that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whales to share their song with you,
they
even
are
though you're in
just
their element.
So
It's-
generous
yeah.
they are,
Yeah.
and like just, such big hearts that they just... They awaken. They awaken very well.
Yeah.
You don't go back to sleep once you've had that heart-opening experience, like in the whale presence. And they're so generous with their time. I know when I was out this year, I was kind of like, because there's a lot of commercial boats out there taking 100 people at a time,
Yeah.
and it feels so noisy and And I remember sort of having this conversation with the whales, like, why do you perform for them? Like, why wouldn't you prefer to be somewhere else? And there was this understanding from them that it was part of their job
Yeah.
to awaken. And if there's 100 people and 100 hearts on that boat, they're going to awaken 100 like
It's
that.
so beautiful, isn't it?
Right?
Yeah,
And I just
so
kind of went,
beautiful.
ah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I was looking at it from a human point of view. That's your role.
That's so true. We've had many experiences sitting on the beach at Miami. We walk each morning and we sit on the beach at Miami, and you know, over winter we saw so many whales, like so many jumping and doing a show for us. There was one morning they were literally doing a show for us, and it was so magical. And I get what you're saying about the heart opening, because it's like it's like magic.
It is.
It's like magic's real when you're looking at that, you know, and you connect to it and you connect to them, and it's that the playfulness, the flow, and you know,
when a wild animal, because that's what they are, chooses to be curious and want to engage, like there's something very humbling about that, and
beautiful.
Sometimes words just don't describe.
No, exactly. Just the savour in the heart. Hey,
You do. You just hold it.
So look, it's been so beautiful speaking with you. I feel like, is there anything? What are you up to now? Do we need to share with the listeners what you're doing now?
What I'm doing now is that I actually do have a beautiful partner.
Oh, I was going to ask that too.
Yes. And that in itself was a journey, you know, of going, like I'm ready. Let's manifest this. And it was just incredible how it all came together, and it's been beautiful. And he has incredible property down at Crystal Creek, northern New South Wales.
Oh, nice.
So we're starting to run ceremony from there. So
beautiful.
been running some sweat lodge ceremonies, building a retreat centre so that we can do even more of these aligned, soul-inspiring events, gatherings, and just building authentic community. That feels really good and grounded and real.
And that's becoming there's so many different things opening up, you know, and it I suppose it just depends on what you resonate with, but just hearing your journey, it sounds beautiful for you to be in that space and sharing what you know. And
so we're so excited about all of that sort of coming, and I'm trying to be patient and just letting it grow naturally and evolve. And he's my skipper now too for the sailing, which is just perfect, right? How friggin' perfect is that? And then and in my own just business, which is transformed just this year from honouring the feminine to beautifully wild.
Yes, I love that. We love your
wild.
Beautiful.
So I do just still do treatments and all of those sorts of things that honour the feminine and help the transformation and help the change and help the reset and help feeling stuck and limiting belief systems and all of those sorts of things. So, you know, weaving in the kahuna, like we were talking about, the shamanic healing, all of the teachings that I've got, just all of that into juicy treatment packages to honour
with your essence flowing through it all. So beautiful.
Yes.
We will put everything at the bottom of the podcast in the notes, so people can contact you there and jump on the website as well.
Amazing.
And your Instagram handle there as well. And then share.
I feel like I want to hear your drumming, but we didn't specify that as a...
I did not bring a drum. No, I didn't bring a drum.
No, thank you so much for sharing so generously. Everything, and as always, it just feels like just keep talking and talking, but that means we just have to bring it into the podcast.
Absolutely. Down the track when you've got maybe the retreats up and running and stuff, we'll get you back in and you can share about that, because I think there's people that are there, they're nearly ready, and they're asking, and it'll be perfect.
Gotta trust the timing.
Absolutely.
It's great.
I know, it is exciting.
Oh, thank you.
This has been more enjoyable than I ever could have imagined.
My heart is full. So beautiful. Thank you.
To our Girl Awakening podcast. We will see you next week with a new guest, and we look forward to sharing with you an awakening. There's a link in our show notes for info regarding our guest, and a special blissful thank you to Ksenia Luki, the amazing artist behind our theme song. We will see you next week. Bye.
I talk to a spirit. She comes in my dreams.